Who is to blame for the corruption that has been happening at the Home Affairs and the corruption that led to the fraudulent documents of Vannessa Adetshina Chidima and many people that have suffered, especially with the Home Affairs? I remember there was a portion in the Daily Sun which used to cover daily about the horror affairs and talking about how people would find out that the identity documents stolen, and it will be very, very unfortunate. And there are so many of these stories. You can find them on E-News. They've covered those, and a whole lot of documentaries that has been done about identity theft in South Africa. But I want to agree with what Professor J.J. Tabane said about this issue of identity and why people are complaining about what has been happening. Let us listen to what Professor J.J. Tabane had to say about the issue of corruption and why it is very, very unfortunate that South Africans find it very easy to blame the foreign nationals, yet they were also part of this deal of corruption.
When I talk about xenophobia, just remind South Africans that nobody has walked from Nigeria to South Africa. Nobody walked. They flew into OR Tambo. Somebody at Home Affairs colluded with them to be here. They went through the border gate. Somebody at the border gate, only border gate, notorious based bridge. Bribery, manual bribery, batho ba fetsa cousin is abone ja complain re batho ba re tsela mmereko but their cousins got them into the country illegally. Haba ona le full market ho ka go mara ba starta go ona le full market e go rekiswang di ID le di passport ke business, a full on business. You know, it's actually kind to call it black market. I say black market and it's open market. O ka reka passport any day o ipitsa ndabani o ipitsa whoever o ka la change leina la go tomorrow, man. You could get married tomorrow. Ko mara ba starta ka 10 o'clock ka kwa una motho ka ho nyadisa wa nyala South African wa adopta se name ya South African eo. Batho ba ba rekisang those passports ke South Africans. Baba no buy market or hey ma foreigner manchi wa itse. Hey wa gore gore manchi ba banchinchi. How can ba banchinchi so? Insulting the same people who they took money from. But bribe. It's very funny what you know, the lack of introspection must be the root of all the evil we face. And rizu complain mara ho ka motho a teng fela o mo examine or ene o etsang you will be shocked out of your boot. South Africa, we got to wake up. And it starts with the man and the woman in the mirror. What are you going to do to make sure that our women feel safer? What are you going to do?
Now, to add on to what Professor J.J. Tabane has said, I'm not here to advocate for people losing their identities. I'm not here to advocate for people to live or to practice corruption. But I'm here to say there must be responsibility if South Africans want to move forward. South Africans have to own up to this mistake to say, guys, we allowed corruption. Somebody has to own up to say, we allowed corruption to happen. We allowed this to happen. We allowed the borders to allow people to come in using Jojo. We allowed this thing to happen. It's time we own up, and it's time we make sure that if we want to clean this thing up, we clean this up together. Because you can't say that people are corrupt, yet you can't say there is corruption, yet you are not mentioning the participants of corruption. Because there are three participants, there are two participants in any corruption. There is corruptor and the corruptee, and then it becomes corruption. So it means that if we want to be really fair, there is also need to scrutinize and to flush out the elements that allowed corruption to happen, including big officials in the ANC who allowed all this corruption to happen, and many people losing their identities, and some people getting criminal records, a whole lot of things, so many unfortunate stories. And this must be owned up by someone in the Home Affairs, or someone of big officials must own up to this corruption. Otherwise, keeping on blaming the victims of this or the participant of this corruption, because corruption to happen, there must be a willing buyer, willing seller. And this willing buyer of people buying identities and all these things, it is all to blame to the officials who allowed this to happen. It's almost like trying to fight drugs that are already in the country. You're not going to win that war. You have to stop them before they get inside the country. Because the time you are trying to fight drugs that are already inside, the others, they are still coming. The borders are still allowing them to come in. So you are fighting a lost war, and you will never win. So this is the situation, people, and I'm here to say everyone is to be blamed for the corruption of ID scandals. Period.